How prison gangs recruit and control their members, the hidden system investigators exposed. If you think you understand how prison gangs operate, you're wrong. Hit subscribe, like, and comment, because this story exposes the secrets most people never get to see. The call came in just after sunrise, cutting through the quiet of the administrative wing at Clearwater State Penitentiary. Lieutenant Jordan Hale, head of the prison's Special Investigations Unit, was called to examine a suspicious incident inside the protective custody wing. Normally, that section was calm, isolated, monitored, and kept separate from high-risk groups. But today, something was wrong. A young inmate, Calvin Reyes, barely 22 years old, had been transferred to protective custody overnight. Officers found him pacing the cell, anxious, silent, and clutching a small piece of paper. When Hale entered the room, Reyes didn't look up. His hand shook. His eyes darted to the hallway behind Hale as if expecting someone else to appear. Hale spoke gently. "Calvin, you asked for protective custody. Tell me what happened." Reyes hesitated, then slowly opened his palm. Inside was a torn scrap of paper with a symbol, a simple mark drawn in pencil. 3 intersecting lines inside a circle. Hale froze. He'd seen that mark before. Years ago. "Where did you get this?" Hale asked. Reyes swallowed hard. "Someone slid it under my door last night. I don't know who. They said it was my invitation." Hale exchanged a grim look with the officer beside him. That symbol didn't come from random inmates. It was used by one of the prison's most structured groups, not to threaten, but to recruit. It meant the inmate had been noticed. But evaluated. It meant someone wanted him. Hale placed the slip of paper into an evidence envelope. "What else did they say?" Reyes lowered his voice. "They told me I had until tomorrow morning to give them an answer. They said if I joined, I'd be protected. If I didn't..." He didn't finish the sentence, but Hale understood. The threat didn't need to be spoken. Hale stepped out of the cell and walked down the quiet corridor. He had investigated gang activity for over a decade. He'd interviewed dozens of former members, intercepted coded messages, and studied recruitment patterns across multiple facilities. One thing was always true: recruitment rarely looked like recruitment. It looked like protection, belonging, purpose, the things inmates desperately searched for in places built to isolate and break them. But something about this case felt different. Back in the control room, Hale reviewed the last 12 hours of surveillance footage. At 2:17 a.m., the camera outside Reyes's cell flickered. Not for long, just enough to disrupt the footage. In that gap, the paper had been slid under the door. But the problem wasn't the flicker. It was the person Hale spotted 3 minutes before it. An inmate porter, pushing a cleaning cart, moving casually past the cells, wearing a neutral expression. Nothing suspicious. Except Hale recognized him, Marco Silva, a high-ranking facilitator connected to several interstate investigations. Silva rarely appeared in footage. He avoided attention. He avoided cameras. So why had he passed by the hallway? Why that night? Why that cell? Hale rewound again. Then he saw it, subtle, almost invisible. As Silva rolled the cleaning cart forward, he lifted one finger from the handle and tapped it twice against his leg. A small signal. A confirmation. A message. Someone watching the footage might dismiss it as a nervous twitch. Hale knew better. He leaned back in his chair. They'd been watching Reyes for weeks. Officer Simmons looked confused. Why him? He's young. Non-violent. No gang history. Hale nodded. That's exactly why. They recruit people like him early. People who need protection. People who blend in. He tapped the screen. This wasn't random. Someone chose him. A sudden chime broke the silence, an alert from the internal mail system. A letter had been intercepted during morning sorting. No return address. No sender. Just a short message written in structured handwriting. Hale opened the digital scan. The boy doesn't understand his value. But we do. Simmons leaned closer. Sir, this is coordinated. Hale exhaled slowly. No. This is something bigger. Before he could analyze further, an officer rushed into the room. Lieutenant, we found another note in the west corridor. Same symbol. But this one has a list of 3 names. Hale's stomach tightened. 3 names. 3 potentials. 3 targets. And Calvin Reyes was only the beginning. Lieutenant Jordan Hale studied the 3 names on the newly discovered note, each written in the same sharp, deliberate handwriting he'd seen on the scrap from Calvin Reyes's cell. The symbol, 3 intersecting lines inside a circle, sat at the top like a signature. A claim. A warning. Name number 1, Calvin Reyes. Name number 2, Devin Marsh. Name number 3, Carter Long. Hale knew all 3. Reyes was the vulnerable newcomer. Marsh was a quiet lifer who kept to himself. And Carter was the surprise. A former college student serving a short sentence for fraud, someone with no history of violence or gang affiliation. 3 different backgrounds. 3 different personalities. 3 different purposes. The pattern didn't make sense. Not yet. Hale left the control room and headed toward the administrative interview block. The hallway buzzed with movement as staff reacted to the new discovery, extra officers posted near high-risk zones, surveillance teams reviewing footage from overnight hours, and mailroom staff scanning every page twice. Inside interview room 4, Devin Marsh sat with his hands folded, calm and unreadable. Marsh had been incarcerated for almost 8 years without a single disciplinary write-up. He was respectful, quiet, and known for avoiding conflict. He had never been on the radar of any gang unit. Hale took a seat across from him. Devin, your name appeared on a list found in the West Corridor. Do you know why? Marsh looked up slowly, his expression unchanged. Because someone wants something from me. Hale raised an eyebrow. Do you know who? Marsh gave a faint, humorless smile. Lieutenant, people talk. People watch. Even when you think they're not. Meaning? Marsh leaned forward. Someone's been recruiting in here. They're smarter than most. Careful. They don't pressure the wrong people. They don't rush. They're building something. Hale felt a chill. Building what? Marsh shook his head. I don't know. But it's not like before. This isn't about territory or influence. It feels organized. Like everyone they pick has a purpose. Hale studied Marsh's face. He wasn't frightened, he was resigned. As if he knew more than he was willing to admit. What did they offer you? Hale asked quietly. Marsh hesitated for the first time. Protection. Medical help. Letters sent to my sister. Little things. He looked down at his hands. Things the prison system struggles to provide. Hale understood. Recruitment wasn't always about pressure. Sometimes it was about filling needs, the kind inmates didn't want to admit they had. He moved on to the next name. Carter Long sat nervously in interview room 2, tapping his foot against the floor. Unlike Marsh, Carter was clearly shaken. When Hale entered, Carter immediately blurted out, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not accusing you, Hale replied. I'm trying to figure out why your name is on a list. Carter's voice trembled. I don't know. They've been watching me. I can feel it. Someone borrowed my books last week, but when they brought them back, they were in the wrong order. My locker was open yesterday even though I locked it. And someone left a pencil on my bed. Just a pencil. But I didn't put it there. Hale took notes. Did you see anyone? No. That's the worst part. They're everywhere without being anywhere. Hale pressed gently. Did anyone approach you? Carter hesitated. Not directly. But someone slipped a piece of paper inside one of my books. What did it say? Carter closed his eyes. It said, you'd be useful. Hale felt something shift. Reyes's invitation, Marsh's purpose, and Carter's usefulness. 3 pieces of a puzzle he hadn't yet solved. Back in the control room, Hale gathered the evidence, arranging the notes, footage captures, and interview transcripts across the table. Simmons walked in pale. Lieutenant, you need to hear this, he said, handing Hale a printed internal message flagged by digital mail scanners. The message contained coded writing. Symbols. Arrows. Phrases stitched together in a pattern Hale recognized, not from Clearwater, but from a case he'd studied years earlier involving interstate gang coordination. Hale read the decrypted summary. 3 chosen. 2 more being monitored. All aligned with the plan. Movements begin on Friday. Simmons swallowed. Sir, today is Wednesday. Hale felt a pulse of dread. Who sent it? He asked. Simmons shook his head. We don't know. It came from inside. But it didn't come from any unit we expected. Hale stared at the message again. 3 chosen. 2 more being monitored. The plan. Tried it. He exhaled slowly. Whatever was coming wasn't just recruitment. It was preparation. And he was already running out of time. Lieutenant Jordan Hale barely slept that night. The message, movements begin on Friday, played in his mind on a loop. Recruitment was never random. It was calculated, deliberate. But this was something else. A coordinated operation with multiple targets, each chosen for a specific, unknown reason. By Thursday morning, Clearwater State Penitentiary felt different. The tension hung in the air like static. Officers walked faster. Inmates whispered less. Even the usual noises, doors slamming, radios crackling, shoes scuffing, felt heavier. Hale entered the briefing room where the intelligence team had gathered. Simmons pointed at a board covered with photos, notes, and surveillance screenshots. Sir, we mapped out the locations where Reyes, Marsh, and Carter were approached, Simmons explained. It forms a pattern across 3 different housing units. Someone is moving between them undetected. Who has access? Hale asked. Only 3 inmate porters and 2 transport workers, Simmons replied. We've checked all 5. For a clean. And the 5th? Simmons clicked to another screen. A photo appeared, Marcos Silva, the inmate porter Hale saw in the hallway the night the camera flickered. Silva was the key. Hale stepped closer. What's his history? Simmons read from a file. Silva's been inside for 15 years. Low disciplinary record. Strong connections on the outside. He's known for facilitating movement between groups, quietly. No one claims him, but everyone uses him. So he's a messenger, Hale said. More like an architect, Simmons corrected. Before Hale could respond, the intercom buzzed. Lieutenant Hale, report to D-Wing immediately. There's been a discovery. Hale and Simmons rushed across the compound, the echo of their boots bouncing off concrete walls. When they reached D-Wing, an officer led them to a utility closet near the end of the corridor. Inside, stacked neatly on a shelf, were 5 envelopes. Each sealed. Each marked with the same symbol, 3 intersecting lines inside a circle. Hale felt the room shrink. 1 envelope for each of the 3 chosen inmates. 2 for the ones being monitored. Open them, Hale ordered. The officer carefully slit the first envelope. Inside was a handwritten set of instructions, coded but decipherable enough, timing notes, shifts in guard schedules, and a list of cell numbers. The second envelope contained a ranking structure, titles assigned to Reyes, Marsh, Carter, and 2 others whose names Hale didn't recognize. They're building a hierarchy, Simmons whispered. A chain of command. Hale opened the third envelope. Inside was a letter addressed to Silva. All 5 have been prepared. Their roles are set. You'll deliver the final directive tomorrow. Do not deviate. Hale closed the envelope, jaw tightening. Tomorrow was Friday. And whatever this operation was, it was about to begin. Hale made a decision. We're pulling Silva out of general population. Now. Minutes later, Silva was escorted into interview room 1. He sat casually, hands folded, as though he'd been expecting this. Hale entered, shutting the door behind him. Marcos, Hale said evenly, we found the envelopes. Silva's lips curled into the faintest smile. I figured you would. You're orchestrating something. I need to know what it is. Silva leaned back, relaxed. Lieutenant, you're assuming the worst. You're recruiting, Hale replied. Not for protection. Not for survival. For organization. Structure. Influence. Silva didn't deny it. Why these 5? Hale demanded. Silva looked up slowly. Because they all serve a purpose. One with intelligence. One with discipline. One with connections. One with access. One who needs belonging. Balance, Lieutenant. Every system needs balance. Hale's blood ran cold. What are you planning? Silva's eyes narrowed. You're too late to stop it. Hale stood. We can isolate every one of them. Move them. Break the chain. Silva let out a soft chuckle. The chain isn't in here. It never was. Hale froze. It was outside? Before Hale could question further, an emergency alert blared through the prison. Officers sprinted past the interview room window. Simmons appeared, breathless. Lieutenant, something's happening at the loading dock. Hale and Simmons raced toward the dock. When they arrived, they saw a delivery truck idling, its driver already detained. Officers had torn open the back of the truck. Inside were boxes, all filled with prepaid cell phones, coded notebooks, and letters linked to multiple facilities across the state. Simmons stared in shock. This isn't recruitment, it's coordination. Hale pieced it together. Silva wasn't building a gang inside Clearwater. He was building a communication network, connecting inmates across multiple prisons, using new recruits as link points, couriers, and translators. Reyes for outreach. Marsh for planning. Carter for external communication. Every inmate had a role. And Friday wasn't the start of an attack. It was the start of a system-wide synchronization. Hale whispered, "This is bigger than any one prison." Behind him, Silva's voice echoed from the hallway as he was escorted away. You can isolate the men, Lieutenant, but the ideas are already moving. Hale closed his eyes. He knew Silva was right. And this investigation was only the beginning. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.